Hello, this is Pamela with Pamela's Portrayals, and today I'm going to show you how I did this painting. I've painted my background, and then I used this to trace. You can go to like Pixabay or there's other sites that you can go to where you can get photos that you can use to that are royalty free. You don't have to worry about copyright infringement. And then there are programs on the computer where you can get free outlines. If anyone is interested in those kind of things, let me know and I can shoot you a message of different places you can go. But that's what I did. And then I just made an outline of it. So on this one, you can see I used it like this. Now I did have to add some stuff, but that's not difficult to do. And then for this little bird, I thought, how would I want to put that? And I thought, you know, I'm just going to put him the exact opposite. So that's what I did. And I'm going to make the branches a little bit different. So there's going to be some difference, but real similarities in these paintings. Then when you displayed them, you can display them like this, or you can display them like that, or you can put one on top of the other. There's different ways that you could put them. Or if you just want to do the one painting, you could do that. So I'm going to put this other painting away. And we're going to start on this. Now, when I started on this, what I did, what I wanted to tell you is this is a gallery wrapped canvas. As you can tell, the back on this is a lot nicer. And this is meant to hang by itself. This you would not frame because it's so thick. When you look at the other, like other paintings, for example, this is a back wrapped canvas, but it is not a gallery wrapped canvas, and you can see the difference. These are a lot more expensive, but again, you don't have to buy a frame with them. So I am using acrylic paint. I use this brush. This is a short handled brush, and normally when I'm painting on canvas, I like the longer handled brushes. But for this painting, there was a class that I was going to teach where I was going to have a lot of people, and I was trying to find the best brush. The brushes that I like are no longer in stock. And I came across this short handled brush. This is a fine touch brush bought at Hobby Lobby. And I found that it worked really well as far as the bristles. That's what you're interested in. So I really like the longer handle brushes to do these kind of paintings, and then the shorter handle brushes, obviously, for doing watercolors or gouache or inks or something where you work on paper. But these do work, and they're about, I think, $14 or so, and I think you get like 10 of them, different shapes and sizes. Okay, so I've painted my background, and I used some different acrylic colors. I mixed them with white. I just used some different beige, some like titanium, on unbleached titanium. If you don't have unbleached titanium, you can use like a yellow oxide in the titanium white. But I did use some different colors here and mixed them with white. And I just did the entire background. And again, I didn't do it a solid color. So there's some darker spots and lighter spots. Just want to make sure that you get it all covered. Then once it was completely dry, I traced my outline on it. And I used a graphite pencil. You can use a regular pencil, but I used a graphite pencil to put the graphite that was going to go on the canvas on it. And then I used just a regular pencil to trace it on. And then again, you do have to add some extra to it, but that isn't difficult. So my birds are going to be pretty much the same. My limbs are going to be pretty much the same. There'll be a little variation in them, but I wanted them to look real similar, but a little bit different. So now I would normally use a dark umber, raw umber for this. I do not have raw umber, so I'm using a burnt umber and black, and I'm mixing that together. I've got my water here. I've got my brush, I'm going to use a small angle brush. I'm going to dip that in the water, and I've got my paper towel. Okay, you're also going to need, for these fine lines, you're going to need a thin round brush or a rigger or liner brush. I do not have a liner brush here, so I'm going to use a small, this is actually a craft brush, but it works well for me to outline these. So getting just a little bit of water, and I'm going to mix my black and my brown. And that way, black can sometimes look really harsh, and sometimes that may be what you want in a painting. But with my background, kind of that creamy beige color, I thought brown would look good, but I didn't want a light brown. I wanted a really dark brown. So I'm mixing the black with the brown, and I'm going to go ahead and start painting here on my bird. And you want your paint to flow rather easily. Now, if you stop in the middle of a stroke, you're going to get these little lines. And the best way to do that is, if you do have to stop, is to go over them. Like you can see there where the little lines are, and just go over those once you've put them in. And you want to go, I did make the tail a little different on this bird. The other bird I made it round, and this one I'm going to make it a little bit pointy, so that even though it's actually the very same bird, it's going to look like maybe it's a little different kind of bird because of the tail. Now when you're painting this, if you have some spots, like you may have to go back, you may have some white spots you can't get rid of right away, you can go back over that. Like I've got some white areas here that I'm going to want to go back over. Okay. Now I'm using the side of my brush when I come in to do that very thin beak. And it cuts right around there like that. And I will be going back and touching that up. Right now I'm just kind of getting a base coat on. And again, sometimes I'm using the flat part of the brush to cover large areas, and then I'm using the side of the brush to kind of go in there and give it look like the little hairs, the little feathers sticking out. Yes, little birds do not have hairs. They have feathers. I'm going to come down here and put this little leg in. I'm going to use the tip of the brush. And there's a little leg right there. And this is part of the tree, actually. I like doing silhouettes. First of all, they're fairly easy. You don't have to go into a lot of detail. It also lets the viewer see the bird as they want to see it. For example, somebody may be looking at this bird and imagine it in the shadow, but imagining that it's a blue bird or a yellow bird or whatever. So that kind of lets them decide what kind of bird it is. And I'll be coming back to kind of touch up this area here. Getting a little bit more water, and I'm going to mix up a little bit more paint. Now some people like to mix up a lot of paint at one time. I don't normally do that. I like the variation in color. But if you're somebody who like, oh, I want the color to all be exactly the same, then you can do that. Just be careful. You don't want to get the paint into the silver part of your brush. All right, so now I'm going to, let's start with this one right here. And I'm just taking my liner brush and I'm just kind of outlining here. And again, you may see me having my finger down. That's just to give me some balance. And then come back. Kind of steadies my hand a little bit. All right, now because I've mixed the brown and the black, you're going to see some areas may have more brown, some areas may have more black. And I am going to be taking these around the corner, the colors, the branches. Okay, so I'm going to come in here. This is my outline right here. And again, I'm using the side of the brush. The tip of the brush, this part down here, straight up and down. And then I'm coming back and filling it in with the flat part of the brush. Mix up a little bit more. And again, this is probably going to look a little different. I drew the lines a little different than I did with the other one. Do my outline here. And then go back in. My paint's kind of thick here, so I'm going to add a little bit more water. You don't want to add too much. Now, if you wanted, you could make this kind of look like a watercolor. If you thin down, like over here, it almost looks like a watercolor. You can thin that paint down and put it on like that, and that'll give you a totally different look. But I'm using my acrylic, not real thick, but I'm having enough pigment in it that it's covering well, and you're not having the transparent look there that you would get like with a watercolor. And again, you can still see some white spots. I will go back over that. What I'm wanting to do right now is I just want to show you the basic, how I did this. I'll go back off camera so this video doesn't, take up too much of your time watching it, and do the touch-ups that I need to do. Okay, so we've got this one here, and limbs can be a little wiggly. And where these are overlapping, it's going to look, basically just give you a silhouette. You might not necessarily be able to tell which branch or limb is in front of the other one. Okay. So I've got, I need to look here for a minute. I think this is a, yeah. So this comes like that. And then here is a branch that goes in like that. And right now I'm just outlining so I can tell where my branches are. You don't have to outline. I just like to so I can make sure I know where my limbs are and my lines are. This is some really thin work out here, so I'm not going to use this bigger brush. And then you can take it sideways here and pull that limb right on the back here, on this back side. And then I've got some limbs coming off on this side. And because this is going to be hanging on the wall without a frame, it's a good idea to paint the sides. You don't have to. You could just leave the sides solid. But I'm going to paint mine. Let's see, and then I've got a little bit up here that's coming off. So I've got those done. Okay, I've got these basically painted in. I'm going to show you how I use the round brush. I still have a lot of stuff to paint in, but like I said, I wanted to make this kind of a short video for you. Some of them can be long if you watch from start to finish. All right, so now I'm going to take my little craft brush and get it wet. I'm going to come in here and get some paint. I don't want it too wet, but I want it wet enough that it's going to glide pretty easily. And you can kind of test that on your plate or whatever you're using to hold and mix your paint. Okay, so down here I've got a little branch. Now there's a little drop of water there. You want to get that up because that will go on your painting and you won't like the effect that it gives you. All right, so I'm going to just use this and kind of pull out some little branches there. I'm going to get some more paint. And I'm going to come in here and see how that gives you a really nice thin line. I'm going to come back, get just a little bit more paint. When you're doing really thin lines, you want to make sure your brush is pretty clean. You want to clean it more regularly than you would like for other applications, because you want those lines to be really thin. So that's pretty much how we're going to do that. Just use a real thin brush. Now there, I got that a little thick. My brush was just a little bit too wet. I'm going to come back, clean my brush, and I'm just going to kind of what I call erase that. Just going to come in with some wet water with water, and just kind of erase that. And then I'll let it dry, and then I'll come back. I'm just wiping it off basically with my brush, my clean brush. And so now that's gone. I'll let that area dry, and then I'll come back later with a brush that's not quite so wet and and put any more in. Okay, so right now I'm going to take a break. I'm going to use this brush and fill in all these little lines, and I will be using my angle brush and fill in the thicker lines. Okay, so I went ahead and I finished up all of the little limbs and everything. I added some extra ones, and you can see the difference in that one and this one. I made the limbs a little different, some similar, but a little bit different. I don't know. So yeah, this would be like a set that you could do, or you could, you know, make one, just one, or you could do it as a set, put them together, like I said, a couple of different ways. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this painting video, and if you have any questions, please shoot me a message, and I'd be happy to answer if I can. Thank you, and I hope to see you soon.